Welcome to our latest edition of Let's Talk Jonesboro. Today we have Fire Chief Kevin Miller and Division Chief for Safety Eric Simmons. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I know the seasons play a big factor in how you guys' jobs, I would assume. I know you're always prepared for anything, but seasons make things different. Is that correct?
Yes, as the season changes, the type of fires we encounter also change. As winter comes in, we have a tendency to have more fires involving space heaters, heating type incidents. Also, we seem to see an increase in cooking fires for this time of year.
Cooking fires are hit home with me. I was working at a newspaper one afternoon, and it was on right after, maybe have been Thanksgiving Day. The call came in. There was a fire at this address, and I said, my in-laws live at that address, or on that street. So I get a call a few minutes later from my son, who was probably 10 years old, and he said, "Dad, Grandma's house is on fire. Nobody's hurt yet." And he hung up. Nobody's hurt yet.
That's a shame.
So I think that was a grease fire from maybe a turkey that got roasted too close to the hanging tiles on the roof.
Possibly, yes.
You see these type of fires?
Yes, we do. From Christmas time, Thanksgiving, Christmas, as we get into the holiday season, we have a tendency to have more cooking-related fires. And a lot of that is reverted back to how are they preparing the food, whether the deep frying the turkeys, that sort of thing. And there's been a lot of publicity over that on the proper way to do that. But one of the biggest things we see is this time of year is just busy. It's a very hectic time of year. People are very busy. They're trying to get everything done, whether they're going to visit relatives and in-laws for Christmas. So they're in the process of cooking or preparing whatever they're trying to make, and they go off and leave the stove turned on. They forget to turn off the stove or the oven, and they leave going about their way, and that as they're gone, the temperature builds up, and eventually it leads to a kitchen fire. So that's one of the biggest things. It's just lack of attention, simply because of the very hectic nature of the way things are this time of year at the holidays. So that's what we ask is everybody just to slow down, pay attention, take that extra second to make sure that the fireplace or their stove or their oven's been turned off.
Right. Well, now a lot of us, you don't ever wake up thinking, what if my house gets on fire today? So you have to take some precautions. Eric, what precautions do you advise people to do so they don't ever have to worry about a fire?
Well, just like Chief Miller was bringing out, a lot of times it's just we get involved in something else. We leave something on the stove, we let it boil too long or whatever, next thing you have a fire. So one thing I always suggest with people is just carry a spatula or a spoon with you, so that's in your hand, so when you go sit down in a chair and you start talking to somebody, you have something there that reminds you to do that. Also, always just keep your smoke alarms tested and ready to go, so that if there is something that goes off, that it's going to alert you. Even if you do fall asleep or have laid down to take a nap or whatever and you left something on, now that smoke alarm is going to protect you. So just be sure that those are working, make sure that the batteries have been changed. We usually tell people to change them when we change our clocks, so we did that back November 5th or so. So if we can just be sure that everyone's done that and tested them, then they can really make it a lot safer in your home.
I would assume it's good to keep batteries, because when your fire alarm starts chirping, that means the battery's low. And if you don't have anything to replace it, there's a possibility that you might leave it hanging unattended for a while.
That's correct. Smoke alarms are usually a very reliable piece of equipment. One of the biggest things we see is either the batteries go bad and someone doesn't replace them, or they think it's never going to happen to me, it's not a big deal, I'm not going to have a fire, and they'll take the batteries out and they'll put it in the remote control for the TV or for the new game that they've got for the kids because they need the batteries. And they think, in good intentions, I'll get a battery and I'll replace it later.
Right.
But we just never get around to it because,
right,
nothing bad's going to happen to me. I'm never going to have a fire. It's not going to occur to me. So I'll get around to it, and we just forget because in the hectic world we live in, we just don't think about it. We get complacent. We also like to take the opportunity to let people know that we believe so much in smoke detectors. We actually have a grant program where we have smoke detectors, and we will provide smoke detectors to anyone in the city of Jonesboro. We will come to your house and install it for you for free, batteries included. All right. That's how much we believe in smoke detectors. All you have to do is call our central station. We'll set up a time that's convenient for you. A fire truck with the individuals will come by and they will install it in your home for you for free. That's how much we believe that smoke detectors work and save lives.
And that's, I don't think anything illustrates your government at work for you better than that, because that does save lives, and you don't know when a fire is going to come, as my children proved to me. And That brings me to the next thing. If, in the unlikely event that you do have a house fire and one end of it is burning and the other end you say, I've got a lot of cool stuff over there, I want to get it out, is that okay?
No.
Okay.
No matter how cool your stuff is, that stuff is not worth your life. Our priority and our main goal is protection of life. We want you to make sure you get yourself and your family and everyone out of the structure and call 911 as soon as possible. Nothing inside that structure is worth risking your life to go back for your stuff, no matter how cool it is. I've got some cool stuff too, but...
But you've heard
yeah.
this before, because people see a fire over here and they say, my stuff's over here. What are they risking?
You literally are risking your life. And it's not just so much about the fire itself, but the smoke that's produced, especially nowadays. There's so many products in the furnishings in our home. There's so many synthetics. The smoke that is produced is extremely toxic and can have you overwhelmed and overcome in just a matter of seconds. So it's very, very important, as soon as you can, to get out of the structure, call 911, get them on the way so we can get there and be able to contain the situation. But that's the main goal, is simply get out of the structure. And once you get out, stay out. Don't go back in.
Eric, have you seen these cases where people go back in and you guys are having to rescue people?
Yeah, that one of the things is you don't know where everybody's at. And so sometimes people are worried that my family member's inside, so they may want to try to go in, or when we pull up, that's the first thing they say is somebody's inside. So it causes us to really get in high gear trying to do that. So the thing is get outside, and once you get outside, have a meeting place. So if you've talked about it with your family, make sure that you have a place that you know where everybody's going to be. So it could be your mailbox or a tree or just something up front. So when everybody's outside, when we pull up, they say, yeah, everybody's out, everybody's safe, and then we can go ahead and get our business done without having to worry about that so much. So that's the main thing. Just get out, stay out, let us take care of all your stuff.
You know, one thing the city is really proud of, and the mayor brags about it, is that we have the best ISO rating, which involves your insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how it directly,
Yes.
it most directly affects.
Insurance Services Office, known as ISO, evaluates every fire department in the country. There's over 46,000 fire departments spread across the country, and they evaluate you on a score of 1 to 10, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. We're very fortunate here that Jonesboro Fire Department has a Class 1 rating that we've been able to attain in the last couple of years, and that's something we're very proud of. And that does have a direct impact on your homeowner's insurance. The better your fire department, the better your rating, the cheaper your homeowner's insurance is. So that's something we're very proud of, and that's something we continue to work towards to maintain and try to improve.
Well, that's the only word I disagree with in that comment is fortunate. I think it's a result of you guys and your dedication and the city's commitment to making sure that people are safe.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
And that's an important thing. Tell us some other things that you guys deal with this time of year other than house fires.
Well, obviously structure fires is the main point that we have, but as we get into the holiday season, we get more dealing with more weather. There's going to be more cold weather. You have to be more aware of your temperature outside, the exposure for people to get outside and suffering from hypothermia. Also, it hasn't happened yet. We've been a little bit warm this time of year, but cold weather's coming. When the snow and ice actually hit, and being careful, losing your footing, slipping and falls. You will see an increase in traffic incidents whenever the weather turns bad, and we get involved in more accidents. So it's a seasonal aspect dealing with the weather and a lot of weather-related incidents. If it really gets bad, and we've had these incidents happen in the past where we have power outages, people are going to find a way to stay warm, all right? And people will get very creative on their ideas. So you have to be very, very careful on how you're trying to heat your home. Space heaters is a very common aspect, and people use space heaters, and space heaters are not a problem if they're used properly. The first thing we recommend is never use an extension cord on a space heater. Space heaters are not designed to be used with an extension cord.
Oh, is that right?
They draw a large amount of energy, a large amount of electricity, and it can overheat the extension cord. Also is where you place them. It's very easy to get complacent and set them too close to furniture or material that could be combustible and ignite and wind up catching on fire. So space heaters, you have to be very, very careful about where you place them at also.
And by an extension cord, do you mean even the power strips?
Well, the power strips aren't as bad, but what you'll see is some people want to plug in an extension cord and they use these lightweight extension cords to be able to stretch it a little bit farther, and they're not really designed for that.
Okay.
Space heaters by nature are not designed to be used over extension cords.
Now, you're talking about some of the things that we do, you guys do, other than respond to fires. I know that's probably not even a large percentage of the calls that you respond to. Would that be accurate?
Well, that's true. I mean, we have a large variety of calls that we make in emergency settings. A large volume of the calls we have to do with medical issues. But we also do other things other than just responding to emergencies. Now, we understand that's the most important priority. That is our priority. When the emergency call comes in, that takes precedence over everything else. But we are also out in the community trying to do what we call pre-fire inspections. We inspect every business in the city of Jonesboro to making sure it complies with the codes so that they are also safe. The best way to fight a fire is to never have one, is through prevention. So we try to promote fire safety and prevention in that aspect. So that does our job for us by going out and inspecting these buildings early, trying to alleviate and remove any potential for fires, so we never have one to begin with. And that's the best way to fight one, is to never have one.
Very nice. Do you have a lot of problems with burning, people burning leaves this time of year?
This time of year, we get into the fall, and people naturally, they'll want to try to clean up their yards, burning leaves, materials, stuff like that. And by and large, that's not usually a problem. This year, we have been very, very dry. Just recently, the judge has enacted a burn ban for the city of Jonesboro, or for the county. And pretty much every county in northeast Arkansas is under a burn ban. Most of the state is under a burn ban. We just recently got a little bit of rain, but I don't know if that's going to be enough rain to be able to overcome the severe dry conditions that we have. We haven't had much significant rain in several months. That leads to very dry conditions this time of year. The fall, the leaves, everything's dead, everything's dry, everything's brittle, and it can create a very hazardous situation, especially with the winds that are blowing, and you can have a small fire that gets out of control very fast. And we've encountered several of those over the last few weeks.
Is burning anything, is it legal inside the city limits?
You are allowed to burn inside the city limits, but you can only burn natural vegetation, grass, leaves, things of this nature. You can't burn trash, you can't burn construction material. Those are illegal. You can't do that. So you are allowed to burn natural vegetation. There are a couple of restrictions. One of them, basically, if it creates a hazard. Hence, we have a burn ban. So now you can't burn anything. Or if it creates a nuisance, if the smoke or whatever becomes an issue or a problem and creates a nuisance with the neighbors. Now, we also have other issues where we have large land development that's being cleared. They have a separate set of guidelines, and they have to have a certain amount of area and land, and you'll see those where they're clearing off the land and bulldozing trees and brush and piling them up and burn them in larger piles. That is permissible to a certain extent. Those kind of have their own challenges depending on where they're burning, especially around other neighborhoods. But once those get going and burning, they're very difficult to put out, and the best thing we can try to do is have them burn them in small piles, small areas, and burn it a little bit at a time. But they're still subject to the same things with burn bans, the wind conditions. They still can't do it during the burn ban.
Very nice, very nice. Well, thank you guys for taking the time to visit with us on Let's Talk Jonesboro.
We appreciate the opportunity.
Always enlightening, and we are so appreciative of our fire department, because I don't want to have to worry about the things I would have to worry about without you guys. Thank you guys. Welcome, and please follow us on Facebook. We always have the updates from the city. The fire department does a good job of letting us know when there are obstacles and things that you need to know about. So follow us on Facebook and our website, www.jonesboro.org.